Although Flash is not the primary software for creating artworks, it does have some decent drawing tools which you could use to make your artworks even better. Although I don't recommend drawing in Flash, you could use Adobe Illustrator or Adobe Photoshop for creating artworks. I will still explain you the different drawing concepts involved in Flash, and these concepts are a little bit different than Illustrator or a little bit different than Photoshop. So, these are the tools available on your tools panel. The first one is the very familiar pen tool, which is there in Illustrator, which is there even in Photoshop. I'll deal with the pen tool later. We have the text tool, we have the line tool. So the line tool does what it says, it just draws a line. I'm holding the shift key on my keyboard so there's a straight horizontal line, and essentially you get a line. If I select the selection tool and if I click on the line, you notice there is a small curve near the arrow. In fact, it's not so small, it's pretty visible, and that indicates to us that it is a stroke. So you will see this curve later, and it is a stroke. You can see there is no fill attached to it. You have the stroke color, so it can be green, it can be gray, or anything you want, and you could even change the stroke size, so make anything you want. And there are some advanced options as well, like if you want dashed stroke, if you want a hairline stroke, or a solid stroke. I'm going to delete this entire stroke right now. Now I'm going to move to the rectangle tool. And before drawing the rectangle, I would like to explain you that there are two types of drawings inside of Flash. One type of drawing is object drawing, OBJECT, object drawing, and the second type of drawing is shape drawing. So, and you use this button right here to toggle between object drawing and shape drawing. So when you have this selected, or when you press the J key on your keyboard, you get this thing, and now you are in object drawing mode. I'll deselect it by pressing the J key again, and I'm in shape drawing mode right now. So I'll draw a rectangle. Now you might see that the edges are the corners are rounded. That's because I've done some rounding work right here. I'll make everything 0 and draw it once again. I did it for a very special purpose when I was trying. So here it goes. So this is shape drawing. So what is the difference between object drawing and shape drawing? Notice when I select the object, I select the fill and not the stroke. That's why I don't have any stroke options here. So when I move this object from its original position, I just move the fill and not the stroke. And now when I hover over this stroke, you see the very familiar curve sign below the arrow. And this indicates that this is a stroke. If I double click on it, I select all the 4 strokes, and I could modify it as if it was the line tool. So this is a shape drawing which draws stroke independently of the fill. Now I'm going to select the rectangle tool once again, and now I'm going to press object drawing. Now when I draw a rectangle, I see that the stroke and the fill are no different things, although I see this indication of a stroke, but I cannot move it independently of the fill. However, if I double click inside of that thing, I could still select the stroke independently and move it independently of the fill. So you see, I'm going to press undo a few times to bring back. Another thing I would like to point out of shape drawing, so I'll select this shape drawing thing, and if I only select this much area, I'm only going to tear apart this much of thing. So in shape drawing, you could imagine that each particle or each pixel is a different thing. In case of an object drawing, you cannot do such thing. You have to move the entire object. But if you double click, you could do the same thing. So mostly we are going to work with object drawing, as it is convenient to handle an object in the entirety, and I don't like having different things floating around like this. So this is the difference between object drawing and shape drawing. I'm going to press Ctrl A on my keyboard to select all, press delete to delete, and now I'm going to draw another rectangle, and this time with object drawing selected. So this is a rectangle, and now I'm going to select the rectangle primitive tool. just to explain the difference between the rectangle and the rectangle primitive tool. Oops, I'll I'll draw a rectangle and I'll make the options 0. So what is the difference between the rectangle tool and the rectangle primitive tool? So when I draw a rectangle, I have the option of selecting the corners smoothness. So I can increase the bar slider, I can decrease, and accordingly, and I'll just take it to 20 or so. I press the tab key and it will update the rest of the fields. Now I'm going to draw an object, a rectangle with rounded corners. Now I'm going to select the rectangle primitive tool. So the rectangle primitive tool, and I can either modify the settings right now and I can draw. But wait, I decide that I'll make the corners to 20, and now I have the same effect. But notice, if I go back to the artwork which I created using this normal rectangle tool, I see that I don't have any options. So if I click on it, I don't have any options to smooth the edge, so I cannot update this drawing anymore. However, if I select the rectangle primitive tool, I could still update the options and the rectangle options, and this is pretty comfortable. To edit this, Flash must convert it to a drawing object. So when I convert it to a drawing object, then it now becomes the normal shape thing, which we are very familiar with. So I hope you get the difference between those two and hope you enjoyed.